All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it wasn't pretty, but the Pittsburgh Steelers got a win, as at the end of the day, pretty does not matter in the National Football League as long as you get your hand raised. And in using that boxing analogy, we saw the Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals today engage in a physical battle that was not for the faint of heart or anyone that is a fan of the current offensive explosion in the NFL. Now, the Steelers left Cincinnati today with a 23-20 win in overtime that saw their defense force four interceptions by Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, which included a pick six by Minka Fitzpatrick in the first half for the game's first points. Now, Burrow was sacked seven times today by the Steelers' defense, as at times Pittsburgh's defense would not let Mr. Burrow breathe back there in the pocket. One thing that people are going to talk about from this game, long snapper Clark Harris for the Cincinnati Bengals being out with an injury really hurt this team in the second half and in overtime. Why? Because we saw the timing be off in the Cincinnati kicking game, and it showed. Go back and look at that blocked extra point, which would have won the game for Cincinnati just before the end of regulation. Then you go back and look at the high snap, that resulted in a missed field goal from Evan McPherson in overtime, which once again would have won the game for Cincinnati. And it's all about the timing, on those plays. And then if anybody wants to overlook the importance of a long snapper, I think we saw it today for the Cincinnati Bengals, as their special teams and their kicking game was definitely thrown off. But nonetheless, Chris Boswell, the Pittsburgh Steelers kicker, he was able to get redemption. He missed a 55-yarder earlier in overtime. Then, of course, he won the game with the 53-yard kick just as time expired in OT to give Pittsburgh the win. A lot of things, positives to take out of this for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of things, you want to question and try to find a way to build off of as well. One thing for sure, it wasn't a great, a la Joe Montana performance for Mitchell Trubisky in his first game as a Steelers starting quarterback, but that is not to be expected. That's not who Mitchell Trubisky is. He was 21 of 38 passing today for 194 with a touchdown, but more importantly, no interceptions. Now, Pittsburgh's offense was only 4 of 15 on third down today, and that has to improve. The Steelers' offense is going to be a work in progress as the season progresses, whether it's Trubisky starting all 17 games or at some point, if he makes way for the rookie, Kenny Pickett. But make no mistake, what we saw today is how the Steelers are going to have to win this year. They got to play ugly, and they need a big time impact from this defense. But nonetheless, Pittsburgh has the personnel defensively to go out there and get it done. You think about Minka Fitzpatrick on that back end, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. That could be a potential game changer for the Steelers right now, because there's a possibility that he suffered a torn pectoral muscle late in the fourth quarter, and if that's the case, more than likely that's going to put him on the shelf for the rest of the season, and that would be a big time loss for the Steelers defense. But nonetheless, Pittsburgh still has plenty of personnel to get it done on that side of the ball. We saw Ali Highsmith come out with three big sacks today, three of those seven sacks on Joe Burrow. And at the end of the day, it might be a costly win for the Steelers, as we also saw Najee Harris, the second-year running back, go out with the foot injury late in this contest, as he was dealing with a Liz Frank sprain that he has suffered in training camp. But nonetheless, it was still important for Pittsburgh to get off on the right foot. They made the playoffs last year out of this division, and to come back and get a win, get a division win right out of the chute on the road. They are never easy, especially when you're talking about going up against the defending AFC champions. And on the flip side, for the Cincinnati Bengals, um, you knew that it wasn't going to be as easy for them this year as it was last year. Not to say that it was easy for Cincinnati last year. They went 10-7. It's not like they ran roughshod over everyone. But the bottom line is, you have a target on your back. You're the AFC, the defending AFC champions, and then also you won the AFC North last year. So of course, Pittsburgh, they always feel like they're the big brother in this division. So in their eyes, obviously they want to go out there and try to restore order, if you will. But nonetheless, the Bengals have a big time bullseye on their back. Now we saw Cincinnati go out there and make attempts to fix their offensive line in the offseason, but nonetheless, so far it hasn't worked. I mean, obviously, this is week one. There's still plenty of football to be played. But nonetheless, you know what? They got to go out there and they got to play better, because as good as Joe Burrow is at quarterback, as good as Jamar Chase is at wide receiver, and of course, he had 10 big catches today for a buck 29 and that game time TD late, and it looked like it was going to be the game winner, if you will. Nonetheless, it was a situation where, you can have Burrow, you can have Chase, you can have Joe Mixon, you can have all of the talent at the skill position that you want. But if you cannot protect your quarterback, if you cannot give him enough time to throw the ball downfield to those talented skill players, it's not going to amount to a hill of beans. And we saw that going back to the Super Bowl this past February. If Joe Burrow probably had half a second more, and you don't want to play the woulda coulda game, but nonetheless, if he did on that fourth down play, we're probably talking about the Bengals right now, Super Bowl champions. That's how close that things are. But nonetheless, getting back to this offensive line, they're going to be a work in progress. But nonetheless, you got to find a way to protect number 9 if you are the Bengals. So for Pittsburgh, definitely important for them to get off on the right foot. They did that. They escaped with a win. It was ugly, but that's how the Steelers are going to have to win as this season goes along. And let's see what they have in their tank next week when they host the New England Patriots for their home opener. While for the Cincinnati Bengals, they'll be on the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys. It's definitely a long season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is just week number 1. But let's see what happens for both of these clubs going forward, as this was a tough one to digest, for both sides. Cincinnati possessed the ball today, including overtime, for more than 43 minutes, but they couldn't get it done. Uh, their offense wasn't as crisp, but at the end of the day, I think that's a credit to the Steelers' defense. And I think this Pittsburgh unit, even if they're going to not have the services of TJ Watt, I still think they have the potential to be very special due to the fact that there's talent at each level of that defense. So let's see what the Steelers can do heading into next week against the Patriots. And let's see how the Bengals can respond and rebound from this tough overtime loss to begin the year. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.